what I want to do first is just to introduce our judges and introduce them to the stage and give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and tell us who they are. So I'm gonna first bring up David, which you guys already know. So David, come up from F50 Ventures, and I also want to bring up Andrew Roman of 7BC. Give him a round of applause. And I also want to bring up Siddharth, which you guys have already heard a lot about because he is, of course, from Rex, who's producing and giving us the space. So thank you so much. I want to give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience, and these are the judges that will be announcing our winner first. So we'll start with you, David.
Okay, so my other business, F50 Ventures, and keep a low profile. We invested in about 31 companies. We have 2 IPOs and 1 more IPO next year. We sold 4 companies, 1 to Google, 1 to Intel, and 1 to another public company this year. So my latest interest, I've been investing in HealthTech and deep tech in the past. My latest new areas, which you already know, is PropTech and construction tech. Thank you.
Cool. So I'm an old friend of David's, and we know each other from Silicon Valley. I moved here in January of 2021, although I was a founder before becoming a VC. And the first company I worked for had its engineers in Austin, so you can figure out how old I am. I've been working here since 1993, but the first time that I was smart enough to buy property, so what kind of bad investor am I that I waited this long? But I'd raised about 300 million, had an IPO, M&A, and a big failure that was majorly VC backed at the dot-com crash, so I lost $300 million of what was supposedly my money. At that time, and then I started the Founders Club, so the name is familiar. Do you remember the Founders Club? It was a venture capital equity exchange fund that kind of died when the secondary market was born. And so I was the first to help guys buy shares in like Elon Musk companies and Palantir and late stage and all the
You
ones.
founded that? I actually know that company well.
So I've been in your house. We've talked about this a long time ago in Palo Alto, but helped a lot of companies you have not heard of that had valuations of 500 million plus sell. And then we went the opposite direction and raised a fund that's very network driven. So all the original LPs in our fund were VC-backed CEOs and founders, and actually VCs as well. So it's an amazing network, and it's grown into corporates, family offices, and individuals. We kind of don't care how big or how small you are. We like to involve you, because like when you guys are doing real companies, I'm thinking, who do you need to solve that problem, and who do you need to make this happen, and who's going to open that door for you? So that's kind of like where we try to focus. So I'll shut it there.
I want to add a few things about Andrew. So Andrew actually has a very good podcast series. What's it, new name?
Yeah, it's Fireside with the VC.
Fireside with VC, Google search, and on LinkedIn or lots of stuff. He actually interviewed lots of very famous, lately co-founder of AES.
Chuck, crazy story. I mean, he's like decided to be a VC while he's on Hamburger Hill getting shot at, like nutty stories. And I've written 3 books, and actually I've sold more copies of my books in China than the rest of the world combined. Like 5 languages, forget all that. China is where the book sales have happened for me. But anyway.
Hi everyone, my name is Sunthar Premakumar. I'm the founding partner and the chief product officer here at Rex. Before Rex, I was an early teammate at a tech company called Piazza. We built Q&A forums for college classes, and that grew to about 90 countries, and a lot of companies wanted to get connected with these students, so we ended up building LinkedIn for college students, basically like a college recruiting platform that's used by Google, Facebook, Microsoft, a lot of the big companies. Before that, I grew up in Sri Lanka, came to the US for college, did my undergrad at Stanford, and my master's in robotics at UPenn.
Wow. That is very impressive. All 3 of you, extremely impressive. Let's give them a round of applause. But before we announce the winner, I know you guys are hungry, right? So before we do that, before we announce the winner, I just want to ask you guys a couple of questions. Since I have you here, what are some of the opportunities that you're seeing available for founders, for new people who are looking to dive into the PropTech space? What opportunities do you see that are available and kind of ripe for someone to, as we know, we hate the word disrupt, but disrupt? What opportunities do you see?
Okay, so I'm looking at the PropTech from two angles. Number one is the market needs. One of the reasons I have strong interest into this space is last year I moved to Austin. I bought a small ranch. I tried to find a couple contracts. Let's set up a sunroom. Let's do this. I called lots of contracts. Oh, they're super busy. And they only meet me 3 months after to consider if there's opportunity. I did some research. I found out that there's a significant inflation of the cost of construction and the delays of construction, which is one of the major costs for property price increase. So I think that there's a significant opportunities to use technologies to reduce the cost from beginning planning to construction to delivery or even selling or maintenance of property, and which is a significant large portion of people's asset right now. So that's a need. Number two, since I invested in many different companies in deep tech, robotics, I think there's a lot of solutions. For instance, robotic, of course, SaaS, and AI, and VR, and lots of different technologies which were widely used in other sectors, which now confound use cases in the PropTech/construction tech business, which can significantly impact the cost of maintaining, building, or owning a home. So that's the two angles I'm looking at.
Andrew?
Yeah, I think construction PropTech, it's big, right? Like, what's the bottomless, limitless pit of the U.S. real estate market or any country's market? I think all three companies had the same cool slide that showed, total addressable, serviceable market. So it's a big market. And then I just believe, period, in technology, and data, leverage data. So automate human workflows. We heard about this in pretty much every presentation. We're gonna automate human workflows. Big, huge industry, but very slow to adopt. Used to be very dangerous to be backing a PropTech, construction tech company, because they're selling into what could be worse, government employee teachers. This is the hardest market to sell into, but it's big. And I like to think of the movie or the book Moneyball, where just going with data won the World Series 3 times in a row before somebody else caught up to that one guy. So that Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill movie. I kind of think of the same thing. Startups, founders like these that are automating human workflows, tapping into data sets, and they're really winning the World Series with that kind of using data. So these are exciting things, and starting with the big market is good. And if you're connecting with Rex, who's got their fingers into a whole lot of things, then it might save you years of pivots and go straight into having doors open for you.
Great, Sunthar?
I would say PropTech really struggles with the innovative dilemma. There is a few big companies that have built a lot, but they've been around for 30 years. They have these multi-year contracts, and they've gotten pretty comfortable with that, and they would just build these additional features. They don't really put in much emphasis on those. They're usually really hard to use. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to be able to pick off small slivers of that. So essentially unbundling it and do a really good job on that one little piece that they do. We have a couple of companies that do that as well, and just make that really, really good, and then integrate that back into whatever the software, the major property management software or whatever that they use, because these softwares are typically very expensive. But if you can find something that's better at how you do it, and especially with some of the new technologies, you can do a much better job at that particular problem. But then you have to be very integration driven, which ties into all the workflows that people already have. So I think that's a huge opportunity there in PropTech.
Definitely, absolutely. So what we heard you is identify a space and niche down and really dominate in that space.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. And since we are talking about founders and obviously the wonderful founders that we had here today, how do you see yourself cultivating the Austin founders and startups and PropTech space? How do you see yourself integrating and cultivating that ecosystem?
So I know like all of us have spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley.
First, I want to say this. I think we're the Silicon Valley like superheroes. Seriously, everyone here, that's how we know David. We are all from Silicon Valley now taking over Austin, but don't tell anybody that.
Just in your statement, okay?
But yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, and I think one common thing that made, at least in my opinion, Silicon Valley successful is that just collaboration. You know, it's very easy to like meet someone, get advice. People are not as scared about someone stealing your idea because the ideas aren't as valuable as the execution of it, right? So the more like this kind of events we can create and bring people together and sort of share ideas and critique each other's ideas, and having more avenues to do that is going to be a pretty big, is going to play a big role in founders getting successful and getting that help needed to kind of, you know, get to the next stage.
Investors need to be successful also, right?
Yeah, Andrew, we'd love to hear how do you plan to kind of nurture in that ecosystem for founders here in Austin?
I mean, I was having a veggie burger. I didn't have the veggie burger, but I was at Ski Shores and it says Cali Invasion, and I was like, ooh. You know, that's what they were calling it. It's like, you know, property prices go up, so it's messed up. I feel a little lonely here, to be honest, after so many years in Silicon Valley, and so it's important for me to get out and meet more people. And I think that when there's fewer VCs to choose from, behavior from the VCs tends to get worse. And when there's more VCs to choose from, you tend to be like, hey, thank you for flying Delta Airlines, because you didn't just have American and United, you had like 8,000 other VCs to choose from. And so it gets a little more service businesses. So I think that this whole ecosystem is changing a little bit. But I totally like what you're saying. You gotta just make time and help other people and get good karma to help you back down the line. I think everybody's gotta play that book, and then it lifts things up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. David?
Okay, great. So more VCs, and some of you probably know, I also run another business called F50, it's a global investor network. One of my interests is to really select a small group of highly fundable, high potential founders and connect them with the global investors, particularly investors outside of Austin. Since we have a very strong online presence, if you go to our YouTube channel, we also have another channel, F50 Global Capital YouTube channel, mainly for investors. So, so that's one of my interests is connect local startups with investors outside of Austin. My second part is that I'm new to Austin, so just be clear, I'm not here to invent. I'm become part of the Austin. Okay, so I hold a Texas driver license since beginning of last year. So I want to make this Austin Startup Founder Club Austin local organization. We are looking for more helpers, sponsors, menus, and lots of stuff. By the way, so today's pizza is provided by one of my angel investor friends. His name is Paul. He was born in Taiwan. He's traveling around America and Singapore and Germany. We are looking for deals to invest because sold his company a few years ago for $200 million. So basically, our goal is to really to help the local founders build an environment with more connections. If you like help, again, so ping me on LinkedIn or on Meetup, send me a message, we'll chat.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll also add to that as far as how I'm contributing to the PropTech space and ecosystem. I am launching a series that is a PropTech series. So at our company, which is a content studio and venture firm, we're content first and then a really cool live event. So if you're into technology and real estate, we have one signature flagship event that is IRL Monopoly. So I love the responses. You're like, oh my God. So yeah, if you can kind of think of this as the daytime of what you talk about with PropTech, but we handle the nightlife of what happens with PropTech, bringing out your favorite PropTech real estate influencers and creators and having a good time. So feel free to reach out to me so I can add you to that list and that community. I would love to invite you to, on this journey. So, And I want to hand over the floor so we can announce the winners.
Who's gonna announce?
I think you should do it like together. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, like you guys can like open a fake envelope. There you go. And you can like write it down. I'm gonna assume that this is the winner. And there you go.
Okay.
Round on this.
So hard to choose. I'm gonna
Drum
pick my
roll.
mother. No, I think they were all really cool, and to me it felt like it's better to sit down and really go through those and work on exactly where they are. And it seems like you all kind of sounded like you were a bit early in seeking to raise a bigger amount of money than maybe I thought the company was ready for. But if I was forced to do one, I felt the most threatened by pay up. No, I'm just kidding, like raising pay up. So that's a joke. So I thought pay up was the one that I felt our network could get behind the quickest and really just turn that into a real big business. And it sounds like there's issues of getting the line of credit, that you need for what maybe the demand you have. But I thought we could really tap into your ecosystem and make sure that's a real business fast. And 25K monthly going for 10 million. We've got startups we've backed years ago that are just getting to 10 million. So that seemed a bit premature, but forced to choose one, that's one that I was voting for, and I think that's what we had some consensus on.
Okay.
So, Denver, welcome Denver, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Okay. Since such your current investment, maybe you can add a little bit more, but inside what we don't know is potential.
Yeah, so PIM is one of our very exciting ones. We've been sort of tinkering with a similar idea for quite a bit, trying different versions of it until we landed on the pay-up idea. In addition to being like a great scaling business, I think it also hits the nerve on like serving people, which is like what Rex is all about. Nothing's more meaningful than like putting food on the table for people, right? And a lot of the times these vendors, they just don't have the capital to just literally buy food for themselves. So from that standpoint, like that's been something that we've been like very passionate about from the get-go. It's a new business, but it is somewhat like capital constrained because you need to have enough proof points before you can get a large line of credit. But even the first property management firm that uses us, they have about 30 million they do annually in terms of vendor payments. So just like one company, one partner gives you a huge runway in terms of how much you can like lend. So we're very excited about the opportunity for PayUp, and that's why I recommended they present today.
Okay, great. So I actually invested into two FinTech companies. One is in plastics, on the IPO earlier next year. They raised about nearly $100 million last 6 years. Take a long time to grow, but they grow pretty fast. Another company is a mortgage company, and they have lots of familiarity about your business. I think this is a business has a pretty big potential. The current revenue a little bit too small. I think you need lots of work to show like a bigger number in order to raise bigger money. But I think we love this space, and we hope we can help. And as part of the winner, you will get free PR and help from our Austin Founder World community, as well as our startup world, Founder World online. And we'll feature you on our next month's video.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Official picture can come up. Who can help us take an official picture, winner picture? Oliver.
Should we stand in front of this?
Let's go here. Come.
That sounds good.
Oliver, come. You are part of the team. Okay. Who else can come take a picture?
There we
Okay.
go.
Michael, come take a picture. Don't ask us. Okay. Okay. These are. Take a couple.
Yeah.
Send is a good one.
Okay, that's enough.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, that's all for our event today, and pizza and beer outside. Let's give another big round of applause to Liberty, our
And to the other founders, by the way.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Peace up.
Fantastic.
All right, we're wrapped.
应该还有电吧？
电焊